Hi folks, welcome back to the Greenwood. If you like this content and some of the other tales that are being told here, please make sure to like and subscribe and consider checking out my Patreon as well. Now let's get into the tale of Robin Hood and Allan a Dale. One fine May morning in Sherwood Forest, Robin spotted a very cheerful young man. He was making his way down the forest road singing a delightful tune. He was dressed in finery of many colors. Robin thought this man was clearly on his way to a wedding, and therefore thought it would be wrong to rob such a happy man. He let him pass without trouble. Robin later was sitting by the same tree enjoying some ale, when the same man came wandering back down the road. This time, he was hanging his head low and looked very sad. He wasn't singing at all. Robin then sprung out in front of him. Robin asked this man why he was happy before and sad now. The man understood now that he was talking with Robin Hood and thought that he was to be robbed. "Here," he cried, "I won't be needing this anymore." He took a gold ring off his finger and gave it to Robin. Robin gave the very expensive ring back to the man before explaining to him that he would not rob him. Robin further asked about the man's troubles. The man introduced himself as Allan a Dale, and that he was supposed to be married this day. When he arrived to wed the love of his life, he found that her father wanted her to be married to a wealthy, cruel old knight who horribly mistreated her. There was nothing he could do to stop the wedding from happening, so he had to admit his failure and leave. Robin couldn't allow such an injustice from taking place. Something had to be done here, and it needed to be done quickly. Allan asked Robin what he wanted in return for his help. Robin simply asked that he be one of his merry men and join him on the occasional merriment in the greenwood. Allan happily accepted. Robin Hood then summoned up his merry men and told them what was to be done. He had among him Little John, the miller's son Much, Friar Tuck, Will Scarlet, 3 men from Yorkshire, and some other forest ruffians he had gathered up. But now he also had Allan a Dale in his company of merry men. The men had to come up with a plan. The chapel was 5 miles away. They all made haste to reach it in time for the wedding. Robin Hood disguised himself as a harper, while the men hid in the tree line behind the chapel. The wedding began, and the young maiden and the cruel old knight were walking down the aisle to a very sparsely attended wedding. The girl's father motioned for Robin, whom he thought was a harper, to play. He wanted to enliven the sad wedding with some cheerful music. After all, there were only 2 people who had any reason to be cheerful at this wedding: the old knight, who was happy to have a young maiden in his arms, and the girl's father, who was about to be even more rich. Robin didn't play anything. In fact, he got up and objected to the wedding. He said that it was unsuitable and that they should not be married at all. The father was red in the face with outrage. Robin looked toward the bishop and said that she needed to give consent 3 times to be married under the law. The bishop nodded his head and then said, yes, he had remembered that was the law. Upon closer look, the bishop was really Friar Tuck in disguise. Robin blew a horn, and all the merry men, including Allan a Dale, rushed into the chapel. All of the men were armed with longbows and quarterstaffs. Sure enough, the law of 3 consents was still in the laws of England. Allan a Dale, with the help of the merry men, removed the old knight, who was furious. Friar Tuck then asked if the girl would marry Allan a Dale, not 3 times but 7 times, out of mockery for the law. Allan a Dale and his new bride both cried tears of joy, and then she said yes all 7 times, and were then pronounced husband and wife. They all made off into Sherwood Forest, to leave the girl's father and the old knight to pout and yell back at the chapel. They had a merry feast waiting for them in the forest to celebrate the wedding. The tale was then told far and wide across England. People loved to hear how justice was served and the 2 lovers were again reunited and married, thanks to the kindness of Robin Hood and his merry men.